Every believer has to be able to answer some important questions in their daily life. And to understand really who and what they are, they need to know who their God is. And they also understand who they are and their own identity. Be able to understand what they're able to do and what they're called to do. And then be able to understand their purpose and direction in life. So, who my God is, who am I, what can I do, and what am I supposed to do are four fundamental questions that every believer is faced with. Every ministry I've been a part of and everywhere that I've gone have in part or in some sections tried to answer these questions. But in our ministry, we have tried to make these four questions the cornerstone of what we do in our daily life with other believers. The first question of who God is the most important foundational question that needs to be answered. It is the very fabric of understanding who we are, because if we do not know our God, we do not understand the Bible. If we don't know who God is, we don't understand really any divine purpose that He may have for us. To understand God, we have to understand what the Bible says about God. And the New Testament makes a very simple but very powerful statement about God. It says God is love. Well, the word love in English is really not fully encompassing the nature of God. Love in our language is singular. It could mean a lot of things. But I'm an Iranian, and in the Farsi language, love can be expressed in 5 or 6 different words. And in Greek, it has multiple expressions. But I was just thinking, what is the best way to understand love? The best way to understand God's love is through His grace. Grace is an expression of love that comes in an unconditional, unmerited fashion towards someone who is most undeserving of that love. That's interesting because really grace is given not to those that deserve it, but grace is given for those who don't deserve it. And I think that the only expression of grace that we have in a daily life of human beings, whether they're Christians or not Christians, is the way that parents deal with their children. Children, by their very nature, are not giving. They are takers. They're not givers. They take. They demand. They expect. They want. They complain. They, by nature, are not really designed to give back to their parents even a percentage or a fraction of the love they receive. And so, in so many ways, when we see parents give their children love continuously, unconditionally, without merit, we see a picture, we see a shadow of God's grace expressed and shown in the way that good parents, loving parents, deal with their children. We see that every day when children cry and they're crying as loud as they can and they get consoled. When they are making a big fuss at home and they tear up things and break things and they're asked and they're forgiven often. When they don't do what you expect them to do and yet they're given another chance and another chance and another chance. 1,000 chances come by and they're still given more grace and favor. When they are given more than they asked for, when they're blessed more than they could expect, those are all expressions of God's grace, living and embodied in the way parents basically deal and love their children. But then having and being a parent myself and being a human and really fallible, weak, and certainly have my own faults, and yet understanding how I deal with my children and have tried to be a loving father and knowing that I have very much limits in my behavior, then expressing it 1,000-fold and 1,000,000-fold greater in the way God's love has been towards me, I think we just get a glimpse and understanding of God's grace. Now, grace is the hardest subject and the most difficult subject in the New Testament. People think that God's grace is a simple thing to understand and to express, but I tell you, it is the most difficult concept to understand. It is the most difficult concept to believe. And what are we called? We're called believers. What do we really believe in? Do we believe in the cross? Yes. Do I believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Yes. But what is my greatest challenge as a believer? My greatest challenge as a believer is to have faith and have trust in the grace of God that has been expressed towards me, and to live in that grace, embrace that grace, and believe in that grace. That is our greatest challenge. We'll express that more and we'll explain that more in our programs to come. Thank you.